the day you went to kill yourself?
Holy shit, man. She said she almost let me kill myself because she hated seeing me in pain so much. You just need to talk to someone, in my opinion, is not that accurate. People aren't depressed because they don't talk. People aren't suicidal because they don't talk. Yeah, I was talking about it all the time. I told my wife I was going to do it. You avoid discomfort, you end up uncomfortable anyway. You can seek out discomfort and challenge that inspires you. Goals, targets, missions, scary. Or you will attract, by f***ing default, discomfort that drains you. So many of us tell our kids they can be anything they want while being in a job that they hate. Blame self-doubt, they blame confidence, but what the reality is they're addicted to certainty, predictability, the known rather than the unknown. That's why people stay in jobs that they hate. Because it's familiar, at least they know it.
And relationships.
Exactly, relationships are even worse because it's known. At least they know how miserable they are.
We know we hate each other.
Set that goal when I was 21 of £1 million. I thought it would feel very different to this, and it didn't. It was like I'd climbed up a ladder, sacrificed friendships, the relationship with my parents, sacrificed my physical health because I was also 5 stone overweight, sacrificed my mental health, almost sacrificed my marriage. And then when I got to the top of the ladder, I realised it was against the wrong building.
God, he's gone there.
I did just say that. No, I didn't. Yeah, let's delete that bit.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Success School podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and taking time to listen to the show today. And I also just want to make sure you are aware that my whole mission with this podcast is to be able to give people access to conversations that are going to enlighten, they're going to inspire, and they're going to give you the information needed to genuinely start to live a happier, a healthier, and a more fulfilling life. But here's the thing, I am just one man. So that's really, really hard to get a lot of people to be positively impacted when I'm doing this alone. So I'm just going to ask a little favor. And I know you're probably sick of hearing this. You probably hear it on every podcast you listen to. But please, if you genuinely do think this podcast is valuable and can help people, if you could just take a second to hit that subscribe button and maybe go on further, tell other people about it, share it on your Insta stories, anything you can do to help bring more awareness to the show would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for being here, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. Paul, let's do it. Let's dive straight in. I want to start with your first million. How old were you when you made your first million?
34.
34 years old.
At least that's in my Stripe account, which is how we process payments.
Yeah.
For tax reasons, there would have been a lot. In fact, just because I didn't know anything about business, there would have been a time where I just took cash. I think everybody's done that, especially when I was a PT back in the day and I was running boot camps on the beach and I was getting paid cash. I fucking loved it.
Yeah. So you actually made your first when you were 21.
I wasn't that good, mate. Most of it went straight up my nose then anyway. So. But 2014, when I made that first million, it showed up in my Stripe account. It was a really interesting experience for me because my wife, I didn't even know. My wife sent me a screenshot. She was like, "Look at this." I was like, "Shit."
Wow.
And you know what's mad? I didn't feel any different.
Interesting.
And to try and feel different, mate, I posted a screenshot on my Facebook saying I've made my first million.
Try and get some validation, some kind of.
That's what happened. All I got was criticism.
Wow.
There was a few people who were like, "Oh, well done, that's amazing, that's inspirational." There was a lot of, the one I remember specifically was, what about profit? Because something like, there's a saying that's like, turnover sanity, profit's vanity, turnover, no, one's sanity, one's vanity.
I know what you're saying.
I give as little a fuck about that statement that I can't even remember what it is. But there was a lot of that. And I was like, it's very interesting. I think it's very British that we consider that bragging.
Yeah.
I've got over. In fact, it happened to me yesterday. I shared that I was 900 days booze free, and that the comments on the poster fucking blew up. I did a video about it, basically saying it's interesting that when I share that I'm not drinking, I get criticised.
Yeah.
But when I shared that I was drinking, I got praised.
Yeah.
Where the fuck's that came about? But people are just interested in me. I suppose 2014, that was when I realised that actually no one really starts criticising you until you start doing all right. And for me, I actually think it's part of. It's like a prerequisite for winning at anything. The more successful you get, the more critics you get. So I did my first comedy show on Tuesday. Absolutely loved it.
Saw that, yeah.
And it was just smooth.
Yeah.
It was smooth. All the people in the room were there to support the other acts. Yeah. There was no criticism from anybody. But I've got some friends. I was texting on them last night. Actually, Chris Ramsey, he does arena tours, right? Russell Kane, he's on a 200-day tour right now. And I look at what these guys are doing on social media. I'm like, the amount of people telling them they're not funny.
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, so you just have to understand that actually, if you're doing well, you've got to take that. But how do you get someone to actually be all right with that? Because we know people naturally fear judgment. They don't want criticism. They don't want to fail, and they can hear it on a podcast and be like, "Oh, it sounds great," but you're fucking killing it. So it's fine to get a bit of criticism.
Yeah, it is.
What about someone starting out?
What a fucking great question, mate. I have this saying where it's the higher you climb the ladder, the more your arse hangs out, right? The bigger you get, the bigger a target you become for people. Partly, I think, actually do it as fast as you can. Like, put the thing out fast. Like, because and in fact, part of it is just, there's the hope that you're not going to get criticized, but once you realize, well, actually, I am. It's like anything. You think about fighting, boxing, thinking about getting punched in the face is way worse than actually getting punched in the face.
Our
Way
thoughts
worse.
will make it so bad.
It's the bit before.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys who did the comedy act, they'd never been on stage before, ever, in any capacity. So they were really nervous before. I was fine. And they were like, Paul, why are you not nervous? I'm like, I've been on a stage, and it was very different when I was on stage.
Yeah.
But the before part, I was so used to. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to feel a little bit nervous. They were like picking a fight with being nervous.
Yeah.
So I was like, what you're going to find, guys, as soon as you get on the stage, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not as bad.
Yeah.
But you have that with criticism as well. You worry about what people might say and what people might think. But actually, as soon as you get the first, I don't like to call them haters because I don't think they hate you. I think they don't like themselves, or you make them feel a little bit small in some way, or
they're just having a shit day.
You're holding a mirror up to them. You're holding a mirror up to them for their lack of effort, their lack of ambition, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or in the booze case, in my opinion, it's their lack of fucking self-control. That's why they criticize me, because I have it. So in fact, I don't have it, which is why I had to stop drinking completely, actually.
There's no in between.
So I'm like, listen, just say, almost put it out there. I'm going to put this out. I'm going to do this, and I am going to get rejected. I am going to get criticized. And when it comes, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? It's not that bad. It's like, it is what it is. And then you also got to understand the criticism isn't about you.
Yeah.
It's about them.
Yeah.
They're saying it not to make you feel, because that's what we get. I saw something yesterday, which we judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge other people by their actions, which is very interesting. We judge it, but we don't know their intention. Once I understood that their intention isn't to make me feel bad, because everything we do is to make ourselves feel a bit better. So I'm like, well, actually, they're just trying to make themselves feel better. And then in the end, I just started having fun with it. Because
you can just see it for what it is now. And
I just have a little bit of fun with it. I'll post it. I have a little piece that I sometimes do called "Welcome to the Show," where I'll make a comment back and share it.
Nice.
I'm like, if you want to leave them kind of comments, then you got to deal with a little bite, and people can't deal with it.
Yeah, interesting.
They can't deal with it. It's
but then you're getting content out of it. That's helping
content.
you. So.
Mate, I have a whole 10-minute segment that I've presented all over the world: Hollywood, Puerto Rico, Dubai, Barcelona, Lisbon, all of these places, right?
Yeah.
I've done it I've done it in jail. I presented it in jail. We have a whole section of horrible comments about me, right? I have made a lot of money and impacted a lot of people by just saying, here's the kind of shit you can expect. And people are like, oh, wow, no one talks about that part. They just talk about the theory. They never actually share anything horrible that's said to them. They just block and delete, which I think has some value. But I can't walk around life blocking and deleting people in real life. Imagine if I did that one. If I take this stand up a little bit further, if I try to block and delete someone in a thing, so I'm going to use it as content. I'm going to make it benefit me. I'm going to get an upside. I'm going to use that, what most people consider a downside, as an upside. I'm going to benefit from it. I'm going to see the gift in it. Great content, mate. Well played. You're now in my next post.
Yeah, love it. Cheers for that. Yeah. You mentioned the stand-up there. I'm interested in that because I was thinking on the drive down here.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. But you're a successful guy. Doing really. What was the catalyst for that? Why do stand-up?
What a great question. Me, you're good at this, eh?
It's only my first episode.
I did stand-up. I love being on stage, full stop. It's why I've done so many stand-up gigs. Sorry,
Would you say you love talking on stage more than anything?
Yes.
Like that's your favourite?
Yes. I love talking on Zoom, but that's just because I don't have to travel. I love doing these because I don't have to travel. The travelling is the killing part of being on stage. So even upstairs, mate, I have a classroom where I'm on stage and I'm on there all the fucking time. But I love being on stage. It probably stems back to the stage, probably stems back to not getting enough attention as a kid. Being the class clown. It probably all stems back to being the class clown, talking too much, always sent to the front of the class to sit on my own.
But then you've progressed that now to the fact you can have an impact, you can make a difference.
It's amazing,
so it's like ticking every box,
doing it in jail is one of the most rewarding things I've ever got. But what made me do the stand-up was, I love getting a laugh on the stage, but even though I pretty much say what I want, there's only certain things, like I could never tell a nonce joke in motivational talk. Right?
Not expect us to go there so quick.
Do you know what I mean? I could never tell a nonce joke. I can't even tell.
Have you tried? Maybe you can.
There's a bit in me talk where I talk about, I was speaking at Wembley once, and half the room walked out.
Oh, shit.
And I thought it was because I said the word clitoris. So I said it again, and it turns out I was right the first time, right? So
you want
that's a bit of a joke. There's a bit of there's a bit of, a couple of people didn't like it. But obviously in comedy, you've got to fucking pick it up a little bit. But the comedy thing was making people laugh. I like the round of applause.
Yeah.
I like people making notes and saying that really impacted me, but I also love when making people laugh part. And if I can make, it just feels like you can be when you can make someone laugh, you feel like you're the best part of the day. And you can do that with the motivational stuff, which I love, but making somebody laugh can change the entire
no feeling like
the endorphins around it for them and me. It's like we're both, it's reciprocal. It's amazing. And also it's out of my comfort zone.
Was it a real challenge?
Real challenge for me. And I was even saying this yesterday, I was like, it looks the same. And parts of it are the same. Like the start is the build up at the start is the same. Like I'm getting on stage. Some people might not like it. Some people might not laugh. But it was a real. And I wanted to get out my comfort zone. I also wanted to get some tools and techniques to improve my. We'll call it keynoting. It's actually a normal presentation. I wanted to improve that. And also part of me is jealous of. I'm close friends with Russell Kane, and I'm always jealous when he's on the stage.
Though, isn't he?
Russell's
good.
Fucking brilliant. Russell is dynamite.
He's smart
He's
as well.
such a genius, man. He's such a genius. We were on holiday with him in Dubai a couple of weeks ago. And I've always thought he wasn't normal. Right? And it was confirmed when I spent I spent a lot of time with him. The more time I spend with him, I'm like, Russell, you are on another fucking planet, mate. You can move from talking about a Jane Austen novel to calling us a top shagger in my accent. Yeah, Paul, you're a fucking top shagger. Like, do you know what I mean?
Do you think that's just a born skill?
Personality trait. It's a personality trait he's got.
I get that.
In fact, a lot of people would, and he probably admit it himself, he is on some kind of spectrum. I think most comedians are to some level. You've got to be a bit mental. He told me, Russell, once, we were talking about life insurance or something, and he says that comedians have the same life insurance as professional fighters. In fact, we weren't even talking about life insurance. We're talking about fighting.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to sign up with Misfits. I'm going to do this fight. Or I'm doing jiu-jitsu or something. We're talking about fighting. And next thing we know, he's like, I have to have the same life insurance as a professional fighter. That's wild.
That is
wild. I suppose I'm jealous when I see him on stage or I see my friend Ramsey selling out arenas. Or he actually, the one that really made me have a go at this was Chris did a one in January. He's recorded a special for either Netflix or Prime. He won't tell me which one it is, right? But he'd forgot the material from the tour. So he'd finished the tour and they approached him and said, would love to do a special. But he couldn't remember the content. So what he did was in a customs house in Charles Shields, 400-seater, he put on 2 nights where he said, all I'm doing is trying to remember my tour material because I forgot it.
So
he actually had to look at his notes a couple of times.
And
he's doing it and I'm not thinking I'm funnier than him. I'm thinking, I would fucking love that. I would love that. So it was all of that combined really made it a no-brainer for me. The reality was though, mate, I only went, this is shocking actually, there was 7 nights. I only got to 3 of them. But you know what? I looked at it and they only run these courses every 3 months, I think. Maybe even less than that. I think he runs 3 a year. And I was like, I could wait until the perfect time. That's what a lot of people do, until I can get to 7 weeks in a row. But then I looked at it, I was like, the reality of me being home for 7 Tuesdays in a row was not going to happen. So I just was like, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it?
Just do it. And then, I think that's a bit of a lesson for life sometimes. It's that thing of people waiting to feel ready or be perfect.
My favourite one,
gotta go.
Hormozy. Do you know Hormozy? You know Alex Hormozy? He posts a lot of good shit, right? I don't like it all.
No.
But he has one where he says, waiting until you're less busy is the same as saying, well, wait until you're less busy to start is the same as saying, well, when I get busy again, I'm going to quit. So he's like, start when you're busy. So that's my approach with a lot of things. I'm not waiting to start something. And the reality is, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're never going to find, and you would know this, you've heard it on every fucking podcast, right?
But it's different knowing it and living it.
It is,
And I think that's the difference when I see you do practice what you preach. What do you think about, because what I'm hearing there is you see Russell Kane, you go, I want to do what he's doing. Do you struggle with this idea of trying to stay in your lane and not getting, like, not trying to do too many things? Is that a conversation that happens in your head?
A little bit, but I've got
How do you manage that?
It's a great question. I've got good, I suppose, at assessing where I'm at right now and where I want to go. And then what I love is this, right? Because I think realistic goals are boring. Do you know when people think about, smart goal setting? It's got to be realistic. I'm like, that's boring. If it's realistic, you believe that you can already do it. Which means it's too small.
Where's the fun in that?
So I believe in an unrealistic goal, but then a realistic plan.
Yes.
Because an unrealistic plan is hard to execute. Your excuse will be, it's too unrealistic, it's too hard. So if I can put together an unrealistic goal right? And then look at where I'm at right now. So based on my current, where I'm at right now in terms of my following or my knowledge or my speaking skills, where I'm at right now in terms of my contacts, where I'm at right now in terms of my current schedule and what else I've got coming up, where am I going to put that? So I said, in fact, I'm going to say publicly, fuck it, I would love to sell out an arena. I'm probably fucking 20 years away from that. Saying it's one of those goals that sounds ridiculous. I've done one comedy gig.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm thinking, having this combination of, I've sold out 1,200 people in a theatre for a motivational talk.
Wow.
So knowing that I can do that stuff and this stuff is an advantage, I think. So when I do it, I'm doing a 6-day tour next year because I've got a new book coming out. And I'm like, people now know that they're going to get inspired, they're going to be motivated, they're going to leave with a fucking fire in their belly. I'm going to kick them in the dick, right? Or the woman, the female dick, whatever that is, the ovaries or something, right? I'm going to kick them in that with the motivational stuff, but also they now know they're going to have a fucking scream.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe that's the fast track. Also, my Connects give me a bit of a fast track.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with, do you know what? I'm almost like I'm okay with never filling an arena. Never. I'm okay with never filling it, but I would love that trying.
What about in a world full of labels, and also from a marketing standpoint, having a niche, being clear, like doing one thing is valuable. Where does that sit in your own mind of going, how can I be motivational and funny? And you know what I mean? Because I'm asking because I feel like this. I feel like everybody says niche down. I'm like, I fucking can't because I want to do so much.
Yeah. And I want to help everybody. I want to help everybody. And I believe that, especially with coaching, I believe I can help anybody in any situation because I'm not advising them. But I believe that avatar thing, that niching down thing is quite important when you start.
Okay. If
you haven't got an audience, you have to build that audience.
So the advice you give to someone on day one would be different to
very
your
different.
own.
Yeah. So my profile isn't even big. But what happened is when my profile did get a little bit bigger, I started attracting. I didn't purposely do it. I started attracting them. So I suppose this is going to sound so big-headed. I became the niche a little bit.
Okay.
People wanted a piece of me and what I do and what I've got and whatever it is, that fucking slightly insanity, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like people want a piece of that. So I suppose that I don't try and find me niche, and I'm just like, I have this opinion that I don't have to do it like everyone else. Like, for example, there's nobody, whenever I've been in a program, a business program, a mastermind, they're like, oh, you need to hire a coach to do some of the coaching for you. I'm like, well, that's the bit that I love. I shouldn't have a business like this where I do 95% of the coaching. Most people who build a business, like, we're in a fucking 2-story building here, mate. There's 32 people upstairs now in a classroom. We're doing this podcast. There's fucking 4 people sitting out there. There's 5 staff one of them's in Barcelona in the team. I shouldn't have that size team where I'm doing the coaching because no one else does that. They delegate the coaching first. But I've done that. I've done it. So just because other people do it one way doesn't mean that everyone has to do it that way. So I'm the same with this. I don't know anybody that's able to blend motivation with comedy. James Smith's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I remember, so I coached Smith in 2014, 2015.
Where was he at in his journey at that point?
He was still working in the gym.
So you're the reason
I can't
he's
remember
successful.
where it was.
Is that what we're saying?
But props to Smith. He always shouts me out. Even 10 years later.
Nice.
He's my friend now, but he sent an email the other day, probably to 200,000 people, and my name was in it.
Nice.
People message me saying, Paul, did you know your name? I'm like, aye, I read his emails.
Yeah.
and usually
looking out for it.
Usually tell them when they're shit. But he'll always give me props.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him, he did a gig 2019, and it was at York Hall, where all the boxing is in London.
Nice.
And it was the first time I'd seen, it wasn't even fitness, it wasn't even the motivational stuff. It was the first time that I'd seen someone do fitness in that setting. Like, how many fitness people do you know that could attract thousands of people into a theatre to talk about losing weight?
Yeah.
No cunt. Because I taught him, and I'm not he's blended fitness with entertainment.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
When I taught him back in the day, and I was just teaching it from a business point of view, this concept of infotainment, giving people information in an entertaining way. That I learned that from a guy called Ben Settle back in 2010, I think. Okay. Because people, you think about social media, people aren't online to be educated. They're there to be fucking entertained. They're there to actually dial out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you can do those two things, I suppose that's what I'm doing.
I think that's a really good point you've touched upon there. For anybody in business right now, they see it as, oh, I need to do content, I need to do emails because I need to provide value. That's what we're told all the time. Provide value. Yeah. Actually,
what is that?
What you've got to think is social media has replaced TV, and people don't go to TV just to learn information. Yeah. Obviously, they can do.
I think that can help. So you can do the, like you say, you can do the information thing, but the people that are doing it the best or never just dropping information.
Yeah.
Ever.
Because with James Smith, a lot of the time, you don't realise you're being educated. You just think he's funny as
and
fuck.
you think it's funny, yeah.
And he's taking a piss out of somebody.
He's like a fucking, like a fitness David Brent.
Yeah.
It's like Ricky Gervais of fitness. I'm not
Yeah.
even kidding. People used to call him the Gordon Ramsay, but I actually think a lot of his humour comes from Gervais.
Oh, Gervais, yeah.
It is.
Very deadpan.
Very deadpan,
Yeah, it
very
is,
dry,
yeah.
very fucking straight up. I think it's less Gordon Ramsay me, because it's not as though he's going around criticising people, shouting at people. He's actually educating in a fun way, and that's what a lot of people do. It's what all the best do. So I think that back to that niche question, I think people worry too much about it. I think it's important when you start, because you can't, when no one knows who you are, when you're invisible to people, you can't try and become, in my opinion, I mean, you can try, but you can't become visible to everybody.
No.
So I think you're better off targeting a smaller group and trying to become famous to that small group. And then as that grows, you might become more. So I used to only work with married businessmen.
Yeah.
And that's who I used to talk to.
Yeah.
And then my profile grew up and women started being attracted to it. It just fucking happened. And then and actually I've actually gone back to mainly work with married businessmen, but that's a business thing.
Yeah.
That's my business. I love working with, particularly tradesmen. I love working with them the most. It's not that I don't like working with everybody. It's not that I can't, but I love working with tradesmen more than anybody else. I don't know why. I think it's because they tend to be making good money, but they haven't got a clue about business, so I can help them there. They tend to love drinking, but it's ruining their fucking life, so I can help there.
It's all lived experience.
They're paying cash.
Yeah, of course.
No, but also the mint crack, like the mint banter. I don't particularly want to work with people that can't handle banter. I think that's, like, I would hang out with my clients for free.
Yeah.
Don't let them listen to that.
Yeah.
But I would hang out with them.
Yeah.
I would hang out with them because I love that company.
Yeah.
The fact that I get paid for helping them and love that company keeps me energy high as fuck. I never go on anything and think, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell, I've got to do that call, or I've got to do that.
Which is important. Fuck. So many people listening to this, I'm sure, have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting thing that you've picked up on there, which is you want to be doing work you love. And it might take you a time to get there and to establish yourself.
It does, mate. I've done a lot. That was part of my problem back in the day.
Right.
In 2014, I was having to tread on eggshells a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because I'd be one way in public, and then people would get backstage with me and they'd be like, fucking hell, Paul's a bit...
That's not what I thought.
Paul's a bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul's a bit much, because I'd have this one image on the outside of that I was... Because you're told you've got to be professional.
Yeah.
You've got to be professional. You've got to be prim and proper.
So you try and fit in line. Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
And then I try to do that, and then people would come in and they get offended and they tell them, well, you can't say that. I'm like, well, I just fucking did.
Yeah.
And then when I had that meltdown, I was like, do you know what? I am going all in on just fucking doing Paul Mort. If people don't like it, I've got to be okay with that. Because I'd rather be disliked by some people and like myself than hate myself and be liked by loads of people.
Wow.
That's quite a big thing, that.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, do you know what? If people don't like it, I'm okay. In fact, those people that don't like me, I'm usually extra nice to them. See how they deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fuckers.
And do you know what I mean? It's like, and I think, again, it sounds like theory, but it's not. That's lived. Right. That's lived experience for me.
Talk to us about the early days. Were you always destined to business? What was your route in?
No, mate. Good question. So I left school with 2 GCSEs. I didn't have many career prospects. I wanted to be a barber or a journalist. Both of those things required me to get into college. Back then, you needed 3 GCSEs to get into college. I had 2.
Yeah.
French and Spanish. See.
Very good. Very good.
So,
the arenas are ready.
Well, funny enough, mate, I say this is in my set, actually. It will be in a set. I only passed those exams because it was an oral exam. I'm not saying I meant it licking pussy, but I'm joking. But yeah, I passed those 2 things. So I actually, there was an option for me. I would have to go back and resit the GCSEs, and I was like, I wanted money. Because at that point in my life, I'd also discovered girls, booze, drugs, the works. So I wanted money.
GCSEs suddenly doesn't sound so good.
Resit GCSEs or get a job. And actually, when I was at school, I even worked when I was at school.
Right, okay.
I worked in the local leisure centre when I was at school. Cleaning the floors, cleaning the changing rooms, cleaning saunas and cleaning steam rooms. Wow. Disgusting. Cleaning steam rooms when there's no steam. One of the worst things you'll ever see.
What are we talking about?
Just got fucking like blubber, body fat. Your blubber everywhere.
Yeah.
It's fucking vile, man. Anyway, horrific. So I did all that while I was at school. So I was used to having a bit of money, even when I was at school.
Yeah.
I was saving money, putting it aside, spending it, wasting it. I remember buying a Helly Hansen jacket when I was at school. It was like the most expensive thing that I'd ever bought. I mean, Mum, it was so expensive. My parents were like, I'm not buying you that, you idiot.
Yeah.
Buy it yourself if you want it. So I did.
So you learned that way, yeah.
Not in business. It was just like, I've never been afraid of hard work, I suppose.
Sure.
So I was limited in my options about what I could do. My dad said, well, I can get you an apprenticeship. I started on 30 quid a month on a YTS, right? And I did this apprenticeship and I was fucking useless, mate. It was an engineering,
Yeah.
The problem was I was useless and I hated it.
Yeah. Not a good combination for success.
I'm still useless at jiu-jitsu, but I love it.
Love it, yeah.
So I'm okay with getting fucked up every week.
Right.
There's still some things in business that I'm useless at, but I love it. Do you know what I mean? I'm probably useless at comedy, but I love it. So do you know what I mean? I'm okay. That the combination of being useless at something and not enjoying it is a fucking disaster waiting to happen. So I served me 4 years. In that time, I also put on loads of weight. But in the last 6 months, I lost like fucking 3 stone because I discovered fitness and lost loads of weight. And then that was when I changed careers completely and got into the fitness game as a personal trainer and all that. And then I remember I wanted to learn more about, in fact, I moved to Harrogate, which is quite an affluent area.
Yeah.
And I for the first time ever, I met people that had money, that was successful. My first personal training client was David Jason, Del Boy off
Touch of Frost.
Touch of Frost Eye. Touch of Frost Eye.
Yeah.
And he was all right. He wasn't a dick, but he wasn't hilarious either. He was just a normal dude.
I can't imagine him being loads of banter.
Just a normal dude, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I met people for money for the first time. I just started having conversations with people that are different.
What made you go to Harrogate?
I couldn't get a job here.
Was it a tactical move of, I know there's wealth there?
No. I did. There was a guy, 2 people that I did the course with.
Yeah.
We were like, one of them ran a gym and she was like, Paul, I would fucking love to have you at my gym.
Right.
And I was like, really? And then I tried to get a job back here. I think I must have been 17 or 18 at the time. I was with my wife, which is mental. Yeah. 44 now, so we've got quite a long-term relationship there. Yeah. So I was like, I wanted to get a job here. But the qualification that I had, people didn't really recognise it here. I had to move to Leeds to do it. It was a diploma in personal training, and I just couldn't get a job. I kept getting turned down for jobs in gyms as a gym instructor. Wow. So she was like, Paul, I'd love to have you. It was a 3-month thing, full time. We lived in. Paul, I'd love to have you in this gym, but it's in Harrogate. I was like, oh fuck it, I'll go. So it was the only opportunity that I had, but it was the first time I'd been around people that were successful ever. Think about this. This town is not affluent. It's got a very high unemployment rate, very high drug rate. It's very high alcoholism rate. It's not successful. And my parents are hard workers still. They're amazing. My mum worked in Asda, stacking the shelves, and my dad worked in the same factory for 30 years. So I didn't know anyone that had. I mean, we never wanted for anything. Like we went on holiday every year. Yeah. So I wasn't I wouldn't say I was poor or I struggled or anything, but I wasn't used to real affluence.
And what was that like for the first time? What did you...
Weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Weird as fuck. Because part of me was like, well, I thought personal training was really expensive and only for rich people.
Right.
And I was like, oh, actually, it was the first time I realised, actually, these people are just normal.
Yeah. Okay.
And I still think that now when I meet people are like, oh, you're friends with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's just a normal dude. He's my mate. Yeah. You know him? I'm like, I know him. He's just a normal dude.
Yeah.
And that the podcasting did that for me. You probably discovered that as well.
Completely.
People that are a bit further down, actually, this guy's just a fucking, a bit weird, but the normal dudes. Yeah. And in Harrogate was the first time I did that.
Okay.
And I suppose that ignited a bit of entrepreneurial passion because I was employed, but you're allowed to do PT on the side.
Sure.
And I was like, fucking hell, I'm getting paid 20 quid an hour.
Yeah.
Not fucking, I think I was on
these clients.
I think I was on 6 quid an hour in the gym.
Right,
15 grand a year.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah.
This is why my mum and dad didn't speak to me for about a year because I'd left a job.
Wow.
I'd left a job that my dad got me, which was 30 grand a year guaranteed, to go into in fact, it wasn't 15, it was 11. I went to get a job that was 11 grand a year and he didn't get it. He put himself on the line to get me that job and I quit.
Well, hang on.
But actually, they told me when I quit that they would have got rid of me anyway.
Right, okay. All right, well, that's interesting.
Why would you keep someone on in a responsible job that shit at it?
Yeah. You
and clearly hated it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't make me feelings when I'd spend an hour in the disabled toilet.
Yeah.
Like saying, go to the toilet and come back an hour later because I
used to do that when I worked in Nando's.
Did you?
The disabled toilet was
got a back rest.
Yeah.
Got a back rest. So, reading the Daily Sport.
Yeah.
A couple of wanks a day. Like they knew. So, my dad, they just didn't get it.
But hang on, what your dad said there, and then the fact they didn't speak to you, most people, that would be enough to say, I'll just do what my dad said. Why did you not?
Because I've always been a rebellious cunt. Part of me. But I hated that job so much that I just couldn't go back to it.
But it's your dad. It's your dad. And the reason I say that, obviously, is because it worked out. Yeah. But so many people... Yeah. I mean, was it a level of belief that you would prove him right, wrong? And
a little bit of that, I think,
Okay.
I don't think that's why I was able to say, I'm fucking doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's what drove me for years, though, to prove him wrong.
Got it.
Yeah. Nah, I think he still thinks I'm a fucking aerobics instructor or something.
Maybe you should tell him now.
He comes to all my gigs and that, man. I took him to a Russell gig the other week. I took my dad there and he was like, Paul, your mate's a bit fucking weird, isn't he? I was like, mate, that's nothing. Yeah. That's nothing.
Yeah.
He's just slut dropped in front of 1,000 people. So,
that's him toned down.
That is right. So it's, and I think part of that, it's me dad, but I was like, well, you hate your job. I was like, he hated it.
Right.
I'd ignited this passion for fitness.
Yeah.
I'd travelled. I'd went and done. The worst part was when I did the course. I had to actually move in with me. I had to live there. Then on a weekend, I'd come home and I had to stay with my wife. She was my girlfriend. I think she was 16 at the time, 17.
Right.
I had to live with her parents because we fell out so heavily.
Wow.
So the course was the worst part because the gamble was massive.
Yeah.
Think about that. I've gone from a 30 grand a year job, secure as fuck, right? Very secure, loads of overtime. Weekend double time, night shift fucking triple time, big money, to taking a risk where I didn't even have a job lined up.
Do you think there's a lot to be said to that when it comes to achieving big goals, that you sometimes have to have yourself where your back's against the wall and you have to make
100%. You have to put yourself on the line.
And do you think that's what holds so many people back? Is they're not willing to be that uncomfortable?
The value certainty too much. That's what's holding them back. They blame self-doubt, they blame confidence, but what the reality is, they're addicted to certainty, predictability, the known rather than the unknown. Familiarity. That's why people stay in jobs that they hate. Yeah, because it's familiar. At least they know it.
And relationships.
Exactly. Relationships are even worse because it's known. Yeah. At least they know how miserable they are.
We know we hate each other.
It's predictable. At least I know he's going to act like a cunt when he gets home. Yeah. So the unknown is so scary for a lot of people that they can't handle that uncertainty. So they'll blame, well, if I only had more confidence. So I think part of that proving people wrong. And I always say this, like, this is why I'm okay with uncertainty, because you will not build a business with uncertainty.
How do you get someone who's so fixated on certainty to get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Consider that they're already uncomfortable.
So
that's why they're thinking about change.
Realize
there'll become a point where, well, I know this. You avoid discomfort, you end up uncomfortable anyway. As somebody, if you avoid the discomfort of of a relationship conversation, if you avoid that discomfort of a deep conversation that needs said, you end up with the discomfort of a shit relationship. You avoid the discomfort of going to the gym,
because it's compounding. It'll probably be even worse.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a comfortable life.
Yeah,
I don't care what anyone says. And the reality is, now there's a couple of girls recently in my program who found this out. They've tried to they wanted job security, and then they got paid off. There's no such thing as job security now. There's more security. This sounds weird. There's more security being your own fucking boss. You're in charge of your income, not someone else. If you work in, let's just say you work in a widget factory, right? Your job is relying on someone else being good at theirs. Your job is relying, if the sales team don't sell widgets,
there's no job.
There's no job. You're fucked. Yeah. I am 100% responsible for my own income, which is both exciting and terrifying. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
It's both. It's what I love about it, and it's what I hate about it. When you get to a certain level, you're actually less responsible because I have a sales team now. Do you know what I mean? But then I've still got to generate calls for them. Yeah. So I've got to feed their mouths as well, which is equally scary. You just get these different levels.
But that's everything in life. Yeah. I think people can listen to that and be delusional and think, oh, I don't want that. But whatever life you're living right now, there's upsides and downsides.
Of course there is, and there's just different. I mean, think about someone who is in business. They tend to they're uncomfortable selling. I'm like, well, okay, you can be uncomfortable selling or be uncomfortable being broke. Yeah. Which one suits you best? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I've got to this point in my life where I've had discomfort for so long that it's just normal. And I know that if I avoid discomfort, I end up with it anyway. So the reality is, I'm doing a keynote on this on Saturday, actually, where I'm like, you can seek out discomfort and challenge that inspires you. Goals, targets, missions, scary shit. Or you will attract, by fucking default, discomfort that drains you. Do you know what I mean? Joe Dispenza has the same way. It's like, I'd rather seek out change while feeling inspired than have change happen to me while feeling uninspired. Like, that's the truth.
The hard truth people need to hear. I think people need to get real with themselves, because they convince themselves it's not, but it is the truth.
You know what it is? If you won't do something because you have a fear of failure, I'm like, well, you're already failing.
Correct.
Because you want to do this thing and you're failing anyway because you're not doing what you want to do.
Have you heard the J.K. Rowling one on that when she did the speech, and she said the only way you fail is living life so cautiously that by default you never live, so you fail anyway.
Amazing.
It's like so true.
Amazing. And I'm just like, I want my life. And I learned this from a guy called Peter Sage. Peter has this thing where he's like, I want to get to the end of my life and think, what a fucking ride I've had.
The ups,
what a
the
fucking
downs, the
ride I've had.
madness.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, I want my life to be a blockbuster.
Yeah.
A blockbuster movie, not a boring fucking soap.
Yeah.
Well, not boring, like
Yeah.
living
No
life
Emmerdale.
on that fucking Nah, no Emmerdale, fuck
Although
that
Emmerdale
shit.
does have plane crashes, actually, in fairness.
It does, aye. It's all it's shite, man, innit? So I wanted to be like a fucking blockbuster movie.
Yeah,
and I want to, and I heard Gary, I was speaking at an event in Puerto Rico with Gary Vee, and I heard him say this, and it's like the regret of the dying. And I will die. My wife goes crazy on how often I talk about dying. I've chose my song and everything.
Do you
I'm
think
like,
about it a lot? Death.
I do. I'm very
I do.
comfortable with it. Well, because I was gonna kill myself, wasn't I? So I wouldn't say I think about it a lot, but I know I'm gonna die. Like that's
People don't, do they?
That is one certain. That's
People
why I
actually
don't
think
worry
that.
about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, I'm gonna die. I'm said. I went to a funeral. It was a friend of mine. Her dad died. And do you know when people say we're going to celebrate their life and no sad faces? One of the only ones I've been to where it was like that. I was like, this is unbelievable. It was an amazing funeral. I didn't go to the wake. I think I had to come back to work. So I didn't go to the wake. That's not my thing. But the funeral was just, I was like, Leslie, can you make my funeral like this?
Yeah.
She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I like that song that he played at the start. I like the song that he played in the middle. Can you put a Sunderland flag over me coffin? Right?
Yeah.
Just put it straight over the top. She was like, why are you talking about this? I'm like, because I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So I got excited about it, but I can't imagine being on your deathbed, right? I'm not sure how I'm going to die. I'll probably fucking be doing something mental or shagging. I'm okay with that. Right? Like, I'm not sure how I'm going to die, right? But I can't imagine like lying in the hospital thinking about, do you know what? I wish I'd done that thing, but I was scared in case it didn't work.
Does that motivate you, that thought?
Very much so.
Is it there a lot?
It's not there a lot, but it's
Okay.
something that I consider often. And I
Okay.
think particularly when a friend of mine died in 2021, very good friend of mine, same age as me, maybe a year older, and I'd seen him 3 days before. It was in lockdown, and he'd opened me hair up. He'd opened his barber shop up to cut my hair illegally, right? 3 days later, he died of a heart attack. And that, I really struggled with that. I've only been to like 4 funerals in my life, ever. Isn't that mad? Only been to 4 2 of them were for my friends. One of them I was 21, my friend died in a car crash. And this was, when I was 21, and this was in 2021. And he died, and he was the one that taught me that we do have the opportunity to be the best part of someone else's day. Because every time I seen him, he was the best part of my day.
Wow.
Unbelievable guy. Always in a hurry. Ran a barber shop, so you can imagine he's fucking mint banter for a Newcastle fan. And he died, and I really struggled with it. And that really was like, and he lived life on the fucking edge. He did live probably why he had a heart attack, but actually they found out that was in his family. His dad died when he was the same age
Right, okay.
of a heart attack.
Wow.
They had this problem with the heart in the family. It was hereditary. But he lived life on the edge. He was always doing shit, always busy, never fucking sitting around doing fuck all. And just part of me's like, imagine getting me deathbed and thinking, I wish I'd been there.
Yeah.
But I was scared about what people would think. I wish I did that, but I was worried in case people laughed at me. Now I'm buzzing when people laugh at me. But it's like, I do think about that quite a bit. And part of me wants to set an example to my kids. There's so many of us tell our kids they can be anything they want while being in a job that they hate.
Yeah. It's not going to work.
Whilst not taking risks. And I think that when people ask me, the worst question I get asked is, Paul, I'm thinking about starting this side hustle. And I'm like, whoa, I'll stop you right there. I'm not the side hustle guy. I am the burn the fucking boats, figure it out guy. So I struggle to give advice on that because it's not my thing. I would never do that. I'd be like, fuck it, I'll figure it out. And I think part of me is, because I've been in business for so long, you have to learn how to sell. Whether you like it or not, if you can't sell, there's no business.
Yeah.
So it's part of me knows that I know how to have conversations where I can create a win-win for everyone. A win-win for the person who buys, a win for me, and a win for the universe.
God, he's gone there.
I did just fucking say that. No, I didn't.
Tony
I can manifest that. Yeah, let's delete that bit. So
Get it out. I don't even want it on my show. So you're talking there about death and how it's like a bit of a motivator, but
Yes.
obviously you had a very different relationship with death the day you went to kill yourself.
I did.
Can you take us back to that day?
Yeah, I can. So I said 8 words that I never thought I'd ever say, ever. And the 8 words changed my life, actually. They changed my family's life. They changed, and actually ended up changing the lives of a lot of people because I said them. But it could have turned out really different. The words that I said were this, and I'll never forget saying them, is I said to my wife, no one would even care if I kill myself. And that, I've said that hundreds of fucking times in front of thousands of people. And it's still weird saying it because I never thought I'd say it. I can't even believe I did say it now.
Does it feel like someone else? Or
It feels like a different life. Feels like my memory of that time is actually really poor. My friends will say, in fact, I did a podcast with my friend Chris, and he said, remember when we did this? I'm like, no.
almost like
when you said that to him, I was like, no idea. It is like it's someone else's life. But I was on a cocktail of fucking drugs. Like I was on a
That will
cocktail, I was
help.
drinking, I was sniffing, but at the same time I was taking different kinds of antidepressants, ADHD medication. Then they got me on bipolar. So many fucking. I was on a cocktail. And my life was chaos, mate. So, and it's weird because I also remember my wife saying, "Well, think of the kids," and I was like, "I am. They'll be better off without me." Because what's weird is, mate, is when you're that low, when you're drowning in that sea of fucking dark thoughts and negative thoughts, there's no logic. My life was fucking good, man. I was making more money than I knew what to do with. I'd been living in Marbella for 2 years, part of the problem. I could do what the fuck I wanted, when I wanted to do it, with who I wanted to do it with. I've got a smoking hot wife, 2 amazing kids. I'm living back home with all my friends and my family. There's nothing wrong with my life. I had no problems. It's mad that. Except I just didn't know how to deal with a lot of it, and I was all over the place. So there's no logic to it. You can't, and this is what I've realized with everybody that gets there, I couldn't see a future. I couldn't see a way out of the pain other than to fucking end it. So it was a real challenging time for me. But like I say, man, it was also the biggest wake up call in my life, and one of the best things that could have ever happened to me.
You say there's no logic. I mean, when you reflect on it, though, what was the catalyst for feeling that way? When you have everything externally that we're told is success, why did you want to kill yourself?
Didn't feel like what I thought it would. I said that when you asked about the first million. It was that time. Didn't feel like I thought it would. All the
so
sacrifices.
it was the expectation.
Yes, that it would feel different.
Yeah.
It didn't feel any different. It was a bit of a damp squib, I think it's called, or a bit of a deflating thing. I was like, oh, my life doesn't feel any different. In fact, it probably felt worse because of all that criticism that I got that I didn't know how to deal with back then. I was like, oh shit, I thought people would have me in a fucking, have me doing crowd surfing down the beach. You know what I mean?
Like, this was the moment I've worked up towards.
Yeah. Didn't feel, when I set that goal when I was 21, of £1 million, I thought it would feel very different to this, and it didn't. It was like I'd climbed up a ladder, sacrificed friendships, the relationship with my parents, sacrificed my physical health because I was also 5 stone overweight, sacrificed my mental health, almost sacrificed my marriage. And then when I got to the top of the ladder, I realized it was against the wrong building. So what I felt like I was doing loads of stuff that I didn't really want to do.
How do you get someone to understand that still believes that's the metric for success? Because I think it's one of them that's really hard to understand until you've done it.
Yeah, I think you've got to, there's no happy ending to an unhappy journey. There's no, and the journey like never ends. There's no finish line. That was my finish line.
Yeah.
So there's no finish line. It's like the horizon. Once I understood that the horizon, I'm not meant to get there.
You never get there.
Nah, so
it's gold medal syndrome, is it? I think they call it, where it's like we've worked so hard.
Yeah.
The next day, who are you? What's your meaning now?
People that I've spoken to, Ant Middleton told me the same. Tyson told me exactly the same thing. People that have reached the pinnacle, I think James Haskell might even told me the same thing, where they're like, I got all this success, and you're almost like, is this it? And you stop. That sense of purpose drove you, and then it's gone. Oh, well, I've done it now.
And it wasn't as good as I thought.
Nah, it wasn't
and
as
I've
good as I thought.
sacrificed so much.
What was the point? I've sacrificed so much. What the fuck's next? And then I realised that I couldn't see a compelling vision of my future, because I was like, well, what do I do now? Who am you? Like you said, who am I? So, and also I've got to think as well, like, I didn't end up there by accident. It was a consequence. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a consequence of my habits, my habitual behaviours, my habitual thoughts, my habitual emotions that I didn't know how to fucking deal with. Just all the habits led me to that fucking moment. So I was doing some things right, but I was also doing a lot of things wrong, mate. But yeah, I think that a lot of the guys that I work with, they get to a point where they lose that sense of purpose. Purpose isn't, like, in my opinion, what you are born to do, because that'll change over time. Feeling a sense of purpose is feeling like you've got something to move towards. So many of us are trying to escape pain all of the time, and there is some value in that. Trying to escape pain all the time, that will do anything we can to feel less pain.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll sedate and self-soothe and call it self-sabotage. We'll do all this shit, and that's what I was doing. So now I'm like, I like having these visions to move towards. I like challenging myself. I like pushing myself. But at the same time, I like to enjoy the journey as much as I can. What I see a lot of people doing is they'll create plans to do shit that they hate, and then hate themselves for not doing shit that they hate. That's a madness in my opinion. Yeah.
And it's also that idea that happiness will come at the end of it if I can just do it. And then what you're saying is it didn't.
No, well, happiness, you got to consider, happiness isn't a journey or a destination. It's an emotion. And all emotions are subject to what's called the law of impermanence. It means that they just fucking rotate. If I think a big challenge that people have, mate, is that I think that people think if they're not happy, there's something wrong with them. It's just you're not experiencing happiness right now. So I have days where I'm not happy. I have days where I'm pissed off, angry. Yesterday I was I was in a shit mood yesterday, but it's because I had no sleep the night before because the comedy kept me awake, and I had to be at physio at 6 a.m. So I was, the guys in my program love it when I'm in a bad mood, by the way, because I fucking kick off, like I rant. They love it. They're like, oh, Paul, you lit a fire in me today. I was like, that's because I was in a bad mood. So they love it when I'm not in a great mood because I fucking go off on one. Like they love that passionate rant.
But I also think talking like this is important for people to go, oh, like you say, there is no destination. We're always going to be human, and you're never going to. I think people have that. I don't know whether it's because when we're brought up, we're told fairy stories, and they live happily ever after.
If I didn't know what unhappiness felt like, I wouldn't know what happiness felt like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
and
that contrast that gives us
total contrast. Yeah. That's what what's the saying? What's the saying here? That's what balance is. That's what love is. Positive and a negative together is love. That's a charge, right? That's neutral. Yeah. We're actually, you think about that for a second. If there's no positive without a negative, right? Or no negative without a positive, no downside without an upside. By default, 50% of my thoughts should be negative.
Yeah.
By default, 50% of the emotions I feel should be unpleasant, unhelpful, if you like. But I find all of it helpful. I'm like, oh, I don't feel great today. How can I use this? Or how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of that stuff. I think
why am I not happy?
Aye. Why am I not happy?
Change?
What do I need to change? Sometimes it's an alarm clock that you need to wake the fuck up.
Right.
Sometimes it's an alarm clock. You think about this. All emotions come from what you're focused on.
Yep.
What you're thinking about. Yep. What you're thinking about what somebody else has said. It's all I believe that all negative emotions, and I've really started thinking about this recently. I'll probably do a video on it soon. All negative emotions.
This is the video.
This is it. This is it. I believe that all negative emotions come from unrealistic / unmet expectations.
Yeah.
They're not behaving like I think they should behave. I don't expect them to behave like that. I'm not doing this the way I expected to. This didn't feel like I thought it would. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
It's like picking a fight with reality, right? And that's the challenge. These unrealistic, unmet expectations. It's not about not having expectations. It's just like, oh, well, what's the reality here? Can I change it? If I can't, can I change the way that I look at it? Right. Rather than just all these shoulds. It's the shoulds and shouldn'ts that fuck with people. Yeah. They shouldn't do that. It should have gone like this. It shouldn't feel like that. Yeah. It should work like this. It shouldn't do what I don't want it to. Yep. He should act like this. She shouldn't say that. My bank account should look different. Yep. That's what fucks with people.
Right.
Yeah. That's a definition of picking a fight with reality. You can't win. That's a definition of resistance. And that's fucking exhausting.
When we talk about your point where you were feeling suicidal, obviously we know suicide in particular is one of the biggest killers in men and things like that, and I think it is something we all need to learn more about and understand. So I'm interested in two things. One is, it's really hard for someone who's never been in that place to truly understand it. I've been at a place where I've been really unhappy, where I know I've heard other people speak about where I was at, which is I'm not bothered if I wake up or not, which is different to I want to kill myself. Very different.
Yes.
So I find it hard to understand that headspace. So I want to know more about that, and also for people around somebody going through that, if you've any advice on how to spot the signs. Or
I think there's a lady upstairs who actually works with people whose partners are struggling with mental health. Because I've never had a partner that struggled with mental health. I was the partner. So when you feel like that, like I said before, you can't see any other way out. You're in so much pain that you want to go. You think that you're a liability. You think you've got a lot of mistakes. You've made a lot of mistakes. You've made a lot of regrets. You feel like a burden on people. You feel like people will be better off without you. You feel like you're making people's lives harder. And people talk about, the funny thing is, mate, that this narrative of you just need to talk to someone, in my opinion, is not that accurate. People aren't depressed because they don't talk. People aren't suicidal because they don't talk. Yeah, I was talking about it all the time. I told my wife I was going to do it. So the narrative of you don't talk, and I think it can help because it can relieve some of what you're feeling. It can get stuff out and off your chest. I think that can be useful.
But it's only one part.
If your habits remain the same, you can talk all you fucking want. Talking don't cook rice. Do you know what I mean? It's like talking about starting a business. That's it's probably a terrible analogy, but it is the same thing.
Yeah.
Talking about that you want to change, talking about your past doesn't change it either. You got to do some different work. You got to change your habits. You got to create this compelling vision of your future, not stay obsessed with your past.
How do you when you don't wanna? Because the place you were at is
you don't do it for you. You think about how this sounds. People say it's selfish. It's actually very fucking hard to kill yourself. It takes a lot of fucking courage. Actually, I don't know if I would have followed it through. Thinking about it now, I probably wouldn't have.
Really?
Nah, I probably wouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know, mate. I was a different guy then.
But you
actually,
did believe you was going to in that moment.
Who are you thinking about when you're depressed? Yourself. The world revolves around you. And that sounds weird. Anxiety, same thing. You become very internal. You become very narrow focused. You become very convergent with your focus. It's all in here. It's all very narrow. You can't see the fucking wood for the trees. You're in the weeds, if you like. So actually, for me, I had to not make it about me to start with. Because the words that my wife said to me were, she said to me, think of the kids. And I was like, I am. And then she said, she doesn't even know where this came from. She said, think about the kids then grown up as those kids whose dad killed himself. And that was a fucking wow. Okay, I wasn't willing for my kids to be the kids whose dad gave up on them.
For the rest of their life.
For the rest of their fucking life, mate. Carrying that through for their entire life. People looking at them weird. People taking pity on them. Do you know what I mean? People taking pity on them. People just treating them differently.
And all those
because
years
of
growing
me.
up, like, yeah, what would he have been like now?
Was it my fault?
Right.
Did I do something wrong? No matter what your fucking note says.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them to carry that. That's their entire life, mate. That's another life impacted. 2 more lives impacted. My wife, my parents think they were shit parents. That wasn't in my mind, but now I look at me friends thinking they were shit. I've had friends, I know guys whose friends have killed themselves. They blame themselves. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Imagine all that I'm passing on. I'm impacting so many people in a way that I don't want to. So then you mentioned partners, mate. This is mad, this. I didn't know this. So my first book was self-published. I take 3/4 of it out now. There's a lot of stuff in there that I wrote that I believed in then, but now I'm like, maybe not. I was very raw. Suck it up. Yeah. Don't be a pussy. And I still have that in me, by the way. I think
there's a place for it.
There is a place for it. I think. But yesterday I told 3 people to stop being a pussy yesterday. 3 people. Yeah. And sometimes some people need that. Some people need it's a man management really, innit? Yeah. So in my first book, my wife, the person that edited it was like, will your wife write? Can I interview your wife to get her to write what's called an afterword? It's like a foreword, but at the end instead of the front. Yeah. And she said she felt like I was depressed because she was a shit wife. Fuck. And I didn't know that. Fucking hell, mate. I don't know where that came from. Shit. I didn't know that. And that wasn't the case at all. But can you see now how if I'd have killed myself, she'd have blamed herself. My mum and dad, same thing. My kids. Holy shit, man.
And you only found that out then?
I didn't know that. And it wasn't the case at all because who was I thinking about?
You.
Myself.
What did you say to her when you realised that?
I can't remember, mate. I can't remember. I was like, Jesus, I think I just gave her a hug. Jesus Christ, don't you ever fucking think that the way I feel is your responsibility. It's not. The way that we feel is not anyone else's responsibility. It's that's all on me. I didn't realise that at the time though, mate. Yeah. I thought it was everybody else's fault, everything else's fault. I even thought I didn't realise anything about them. I didn't know anything about emotions then, or mindset, or any of the other stuff that I told about. I was doing the best I could with what I knew. But then she also said, and this will blow your fucking head off. She didn't say this in the book, but she said it on a podcast. And I didn't even know she'd done the podcast. And my friend Webby said, mate, have you heard this podcast? I was like, no. She would hate it if I listened to it. She said she almost let me kill myself. Because she hated seeing me in pain so much. Because she's the one that had to put up with me. I didn't want to be around anyone else. Didn't even want to be around her. I used to disappear for days at a time on my own, mate. So she said that she hated seeing me in pain so much and knew how much pain I was in. That part of her wanted to let me go. Which is, it's intense, isn't it? But yeah, and that's, how mad is that?
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Nah. The person one of the people you love the most are in that
at the time, probably
pain.
The only person that I loved apart from my kids.
Fuck.
Like we'd lived in Marbella on our own. We didn't have anyone. I'd isolate myself. I was so convinced that it was other people's fault, that they were negative, that they were toxic, that I cut everyone out of my life, mate. Everyone. Because we're taught that, right? Cut all the negative people out.
Personal development world says, yeah.
Cut the negative people out. I'm like, well, guess what? If I think you're negative, what does that make me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you start thinking everyone else is the problem.
Listen, we like to complain. It makes us feel better. That's what we like to do. Misery loves company. We like to complain about things and people together. That's what we do. Notice one of your friends complain and you'll join in. Guarantee, the weather, fucking hell, it's freezing me hands today. Yeah. I had to wear fucking trousers to work. Do you know what I mean? That's what we like to do. And do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yes, it can be draining when someone's like that all the time. Yeah. But now, once they understood that that's what people like to do to feel better, I'm like, I want people to feel better. If that's at my expense, sometimes I'm okay with it. Do you know what I mean?
Quick question for you, the listener. This is probably the most important question you will answer today. have you got your tickets to our next event yet? Seriously, guys, I'm not just bigging this up because it's my event. Genuinely, this is gonna be one of the best events of 2025. Out of everything that I do, I can honestly say this is the thing I put the most energy, effort, attention into, and it's one of the things I enjoy the most. Enhance Your Brand is happening. This is our 4th live event here at Success School, and it's going to be a day jam-packed with incredible speakers talking about business, mindset, sales, and marketing. And not only is there going to be some incredible speakers, but you get to network with a room filled with other fellow Success School listeners. This is going to be a room filled with people who are committed to being the best version of themselves, which I would say is going to be quite a good room to be in if you want to achieve more in your life. So if you haven't already, make sure you click the link in the show notes, get your tickets, and I'll be so excited to see you there on Sunday, the 2nd of February. You don't want to miss out. Get your tickets. Do it now. Now. Pause. Get your tickets. Have you got them yet? Right. We'll get back to the episode. Talk us through then, so you've had that realisation that what you're saying ultimately, and what I'm hearing is the first step is you've got to do it for somebody else or focus on someone else.
If I couldn't do it for me, and even then, if you can't get inspired, stop thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
Make it about other people. My goals that I've hit that mean the most to me were not the self-centered ones. They're the ones that I knew had an impact on other people, where if I didn't do it, at some level I'd be letting them down.
Yeah.
At some level it changed their life. Do you know what I mean? When I get comments, and sometimes you'll often set goals that are a bit selfish. Like, I stopped drinking mainly because I felt like shit.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, well, it impacts me kids. It impacts me wife. It impacts me clients.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing to say. It
crazy,
can be both.
It can be both.
Yeah.
Of course it can.
Yeah.
It's got to benefit me or I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
In fact, what happens is if you do things that are only for other people, you'll feel a sense of resentment.
Yeah, you can.
If it's only for other people, you'll feel like a people pleaser. You'll resent them.
Yeah.
But if you get something from it, and they get something from it, and it's scary, and it's fucking exciting, for me, that's the perfect fucking target. That is what I'm going to call a worthy goal. It's worthy of me time, worthy of me energy, worthy of me money, worthy of me attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a bullshit thing. It impacts other people. It's scary. There's a benefit to me, and it's exciting. Fucking hell, man. That's dynamite.
Win, win, win.
Yeah, so the goals that I've hit the most are the ones that impacted other people. And I made a post today, and this blows me head off. There are people that have stopped drinking because I did.
Wow. Shit.
That's a big-headed thing to say, but it's the fucking truth. It's a fact.
Yeah.
There are people that tell me every day, Paul, I'm a week behind you. Do you know Simon Thomas off Sky Sports? He took over from Jeff Stelling. He used to be on Blue Peter, Simon.
Yeah.
And his wife died. She died a week after being diagnosed with cancer, right? He went through a lot of challenges. And he was the main presenter on Monday Night Football. And he had a meltdown at Old Trafford. Went off TV for years. Now he's Soccer Saturday main host. He told me, Paul, I stopped drinking at the same time as you because you did.
Wow.
That's a big fucking deal. So hundreds and hundreds of people say to me, Paul, I stopped. And I was like, well, I didn't do that for anyone. I declared it. Here's why I declared it publicly. Because I wanted to make sure I did it. I have such a fear, and everyone has a fear of failure. We all have a fear of being judged. I just use it as fuel.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I've told people now, it's done.
Yeah. And
it's
now I know it'll happen. Yeah.
I am so scared of looking like a dick. I am so scared of being a cunt.
Yeah.
Looking like a cunt. I'm so scared of looking like a pussy that I'm
I'll
going to tell everyone about it. I told everyone about the stand-up. My wife, she was fucking, she didn't take any photos of video on Tuesdays because she was cringing so hard. She hated it.
Really?
She hated it. I'm like, why are you so nervous? Why do you have to do this stupid shit? I was like, well, I like to she hates it because it's her worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But then, so it impacts other people in a bad way, but at the same time, I declared it to make sure I did it. I could have failed in private.
Yeah.
I could let myself down, but if I make it about other people, I have a fear of letting people down. So I use it.
That fear of letting people down, and what you were saying there about people stopping drinking because they're being inspired by you. What about the other side of carrying that responsibility, especially when you've got people regularly reaching out that may be suicidal? I'm interested.
That can get heavy.
Because you've changed your life around, but at the same time, you're still a human being that at one point wanted to take your own life.
It gets heavy. How
do you deal with it?
It gets heavy. I have a couple of things that I do. One, I always make sure that I have people. So the analogy that I like is I have people plugged into me. They're plugged into me. They're not stealing me energy, but they require my energy at some level. So I have two things. So they're plugged into me. I have to have people that I'm plugged into.
Yeah.
After whether that's people at jiu-jitsu coach, business coach, life coach, relationship coach, a mastermind that I'm in, or my friendship group in I wouldn't call them my colleagues, but my friendship group like Smith and Darren and Ollie Ollerton and Russell, they're my friends now. Haskell, Fury's team, just these people, I like to be plugged into them.
Yeah.
I've got to get around them.
Yeah.
But I'm big on my habits, my rituals, my behaviours.
What are some of the main
my
ones?
Structure, journaling, 100%. 100%. Journaling's not a diary, it's a putting my attention on what makes me feel good.
Great.
Putting my attention on what makes me feel good. What makes me feel good is focusing on what I want.
Yeah.
And focusing on what's working. Focusing on progress.
Yeah. So do that every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every morning. That's what it's about. So that's a key one, because that actually controls where my attention goes. Because by default, mate, your brain's there to protect you. It's a prediction machine. It's predicting the future, and it's there to protect you from pain, from destruction, from discomfort, if you like. So by default, almost your first thought will be negative. So I have to interrupt that.
Yeah.
I have to set an alarm clock. I have to wake up from autopilot. Do you know what I mean? I
Be
have
intentional about it.
I have to wake up from me fucking being sleeping awake.
Yeah.
So I have to set the intention, because habitually I've probably had more negative thoughts, so I've got to break the habit. I've got to do it. I've got to fucking wake up and be conscious. That's why I do it first thing.
Is it?
That's why I do it first thing. Yeah. That's why I do it first
journaling.
thing.
What else are the go-to?
Journaling, I do I've created a meditation called the 6-phase Blisscipline meditation. Blisscipline is having the discipline to only focus on what makes you feel good, right? Which is hard. So I focus on what I want. So
see, on surface level, that sounds like the kind of discipline I want.
it is. It is.
But you say it's hard.
Blisscipline, it is hard. So this is a meditation that I've created that I suppose is everything I've learned from everyone that I've done meditation with. So the Ashaya monks are the first people that I learned it off. People that teach Yoga Nidra, which I fucking love. I learned that off Huberman. He pointed me in the direction. I love that. That's body scanning, getting present. Ashaya monks, transcendental meditation I've done, and I've done a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. He does more mental rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
So I've created this meditation that's a bit of all that stuff. We spent the first part getting present and just slowing down, doing body scanning. The next part is focusing on what's working. That is who I'm impacting, what success I've had recently, what success I've had in the past, wins that I've had, achievements that I've had, things that I've got boxed off, things that are just work in progress. And then we shift in, okay, let's focus on what you want. Let's focus on what you want just because you want it. It's okay to want what you want, right? So goals, missions, targets, objectives, and then imagine you've already made them happen. And then bringing it back to, okay, what do you need to get done today then? By the end of this meditation, and by the end I've done that journal, my attention is only on what I want and what's working.
How long does that take?
The meditation's 12 minutes.
Wow. And that's enough to be like, boom.
12-minute meditation, 5 to 10 minutes journaling. Sometimes I'll actually change the order. I like to do the journaling first because I'll get me to-do list and that in there. Or I say a to-do list, it's 4 things.
Yeah.
4 things. And then I do the meditation, then I'm on point. Because what I've got to consider is this. Where I place my attention is where I place my energy. So if I want to feel the feelings, which are excited, I've got to focus on what makes me excited. If I don't focus on what makes me excited, I focus on what makes me nervous and stressed.
Yeah.
I want to focus on what makes me feel inspired. I want to focus on what makes me feel confident. So then I can't blame lack of confidence. What makes me feel confidence is looking backwards, not forwards. Right? I get the confidence from doing. I want to feel confident. I want to feel proud. Where does pride come from? What I've done, what I'm achieving, however small. I want to feel self-belief. Where does self-belief comes from? Benchmarks. So I actually do 2 things instead of waiting for them to show up, because they're not coming. Confidence ain't coming. No one else is giving you it. Someone else can tell you how great you are all day long, and you can do it, right? Someone can tell you that all day long, but if you don't believe them, it doesn't matter.
Completely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People tell me I can do stuff. Even now, people are saying, Paul, if anyone can fill an arena, it's you. I'm like, no. I have no belief that I can fill an arena.
I need 20 years.
Guess what? I'm going to do the work anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the work and I'm going to go through the process anyway. I don't have to believe it to achieve it.
Do you ever have a day?
Why would I believe it when I've never done it?
Yeah. There's no evidence.
My brain needs evidence.
Yeah.
I've never done it.
Yeah.
But I get excited about just going after it. I've filled a theatre before, which gives me a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
I've got connections, which gives me even more confidence. I've got an okay profile. It gives me even more confidence.
You've not done it.
I've got no belief that I can do it. The greatest story that I've ever heard about Believe It to Achieve It, it's a tennis player called Emma Raducanu, who actually, it turns out, she's not that good at tennis, right? I didn't know that. But she won the US Open, right? She's the only ever qualifier that's won the US Open, one of the hardest tennis tournaments in the world. She didn't believe in herself so much that she had a flight booked to go home the day after a first match.
Wow.
She went for the experience and thought she was going to lose the first match. She won the entire fucking competition. Because she didn't need to believe it to achieve it. She just needed to turn up and hit the fucking ball. That's all she did.
Do you think people
and
are
her
waiting
confidence
for that?
would have grown as they're waiting for it.
Yeah. They're waiting for the self-belief.
How do you expect to get it when you've never done it? You have to do it without self-belief. You have to do it with self-doubt. You have to do it while you're scared. Do you know what I mean? Courage can't exist without fear. Self-belief can't exist without self-doubt.
Yeah.
It doesn't. In fact, I actually believe that self-doubt's a prerequisite. Lack of confidence is a prerequisite to getting to the next level. Not believing you can is exciting to me. I don't believe I can, but I'm going to have a fucking go anyway. Fuck it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
I've been suicidal, mate.
Yeah.
That's the worst that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It can get one step worse than that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not bothered about declaring this stuff, because I'm like, actually, I don't want to feel, but it's not the end of the world if I do. I'm not going to die. No one's ever died of embarrassment. No one's ever died of lack of confidence. Do you know what I mean? They haven't. So I'm just like, well, why would I believe that I can't do that? I don't know how I've ended up here, but it's very exciting.
I love it. A doctor
Am I being diagnosed with ADHD?
I was just going to say,
yeah.
Well, you were diagnosed with bipolar.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
So 2000, I was actually diagnosed with ADHD first.
Right.
But I actually never ended up doing anything about that. So before it was cool, I was ADHD.
Before it was a trend.
It's probably still 20 years too late.
Yeah.
But before it was a trend, before you could diagnose yourself, before those questionnaires, there was meds at the time that they put me on for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right? So, and then the focus became not fucking killing myself. So the ADHD shit went out the window until probably a couple of years ago, where I learned some amazing shit from Dr. John DeMartini about ADHD. Anyway, I was diagnosed bipolar, and that was when I actually had to move home from Marbella, because it wasn't really a thing. I saw an English doctor privately, and he's like, listen, Paul, it's not really a thing here. And my wife had enough. She had a 2-year-old, a newborn baby, a 2-year-old baby, and a 34-year-old baby. No help. So we had to get home. Problem was, when I got home, it actually got worse.
Wow.
Because I only knew one dealer there. I know fucking hundreds here. So get me hands on coke became easier.
Yeah.
I had more drinking partners. I didn't know anyone in Marbella. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had more drinking partners.
Yeah.
And that's what people like to do here. So it became worse for me. But the bipolar diagnosis actually gave me relief, and it gave my wife relief to start with. Because it was like, oh, that explains a lot.
Got it, yeah.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
I needed medication to help me get through. And I think I'm okay with people having antidepressants. But if you need them forever, there's a problem.
Right.
The chemical imbalance doesn't happen by itself. So I got placed on this medication, and it helped for a bit because it stopped me from having the highs. So I went from having these massive highs and these massive lows to just feeling shit most of the time.
Wow.
Not suicidal,
Yeah.
but just like a fucking zombie, mate.
Okay.
And I remember I didn't like it. I didn't have any feelings really anymore. I didn't experience any emotions anymore. Nothing excited me, but nothing really, there was just nothing there for me. I felt like a zombie. So I remember going back and I said, listen, I've changed my entire life around here. I've lost 4 stone. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing coke, and I still feel like shit. Get me off these meds. Like, no, you need them, Paul. You were suicidal fucking a year ago. I'm like, I need off them. Like, well, okay. And I just insisted I need it. And I'm not, by the way, do not do this on your own.
Yeah.
So I basically needed a good job. I'm good at selling, innit? I basically sold, there was a professor that I was working with. I sold the professor on letting me come off the meds. Right? And he said, and I had to get me bloods taken every week for 6 months, because it's that dangerous to come off them.
Wow.
Because if you stop taking lithium carbonate, which is what they make batteries with, right? I don't know if it's the same thing, by the way, but it's what batteries are made of.
Yeah.
If you stop taking it, your liver can't handle the load and you die.
Wow.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wild. So how I feel about the label is that I just don't have it anymore. I don't associate with it. I was diagnosed with it. I don't think that's who I am. You think about that, people say I'm bipolar. I'm not bipolar. It was a diagnosis that I was given in 2014. I'm not I don't have bipolar either. I don't believe that. I believe I created the symptoms of bipolar. So it's really interesting that.
Do you think that's the case with most?
Think about what bipolar is, right?
People, like,
what is bipolar? The opposite.
Yeah.
Think about this for a second.
Okay.
We talked about that already.
Yeah.
Everyone experiences happiness and unhappiness. Right? It's called bipolar disorder. Disorder basically means there's no order to my emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know how to regulate these emotions.
Sure.
So everybody at some level is bipolar. Because we all experience what? Polar
highs and
opposite.
lows, yeah.
Yeah. We all experience that. But bipolar disorder is just disordered.
Yeah.
Not being able to deal with opposite emotions. Anxiety disorder is the same.
Okay.
Anxiety is actually, the word anxiety comes from, it's a fear disorder. Disordered fear. So everybody's supposed to feel fear. We all feel fear. Anxiety is disordered fear. And you get that when you create inappropriate risk assessments. So I was doing inappropriate things and having inappropriate responses to normal emotions.
Right.
And I didn't know how to handle it. And the habits that I had at the time, the drinking, the gear, the fucking extreme reactions to anything. So I was extreme as fuck, man. I was volatile as fuck. I was like a fucking volcano, a ticking time bomb, ticking emotional time bomb. I'd go off it at anything. And that was just, so it was a label, but I actually think that I'm now just normal bipolar. I don't have disordered bipolar, I have normal bipolar. I experience all of those emotions.
Obviously,
I experienced them in fucking Everest Base Camp. I went through all of them very quickly there. So yeah, bipolar is an interesting thing. And I'm not saying I'm right, by the way. This is just my personal, this is just my personal experience. I'm not a fucking doctor.
Yeah.
No desire to be a doctor. Not smart enough to be one. This is just my personal experience. So don't take this as fucking advice to anybody.
But obviously a lot of people, through your experience, through your energy, and through the way that you're so open and share, you've then gone on to help so many people. I'm interested in your opinion on life coaching as an industry. How do you feel about it? Because there's a lot of controversy around it being unregulated, and obviously you can get good and bad. What's your overall thoughts on it?
Here's the truth, right? Life coaching gets a bad rap, but it's also changed a lot of fucking lives.
Right.
It's like personal training. Personal training has changed a lot of lives and gets a bad rap. It's the same with every industry, right? And I think life coaching is unregulated. Do I think it should be regulated? Probably. Fitness industry is not regulated though. Yeah. A lot of industries that aren't regulated. And then
you've got industries like therapy that are regulated, that are put on a pedestal, but you still have people have a shit experience.
Mate, I've seen every ist going. Not many of them helped me. Why? Because they were obsessed with talking about me past.
Right. So it didn't work for you?
That I can't change. I'm not saying all therapy is the same, by the way, at all.
No.
I'm not saying all therapists are counselling is the same, but every time I went in, I felt fucking worse when I came out. I've just talked about something that I can't change, mate. Now, I think there's value in looking back to reframe and change the picture and seeing the gift. That's why I have no regrets now. I haven't got a tattoo that says no regrets because I'm not a cunt.
Surprises me.
I've got one that says only God can judge me though. I've got one in my arse that says live, laugh, love. I haven't really. But yeah, it's like I think the life coaching gets a bad rap, but I don't feel like I'm in that game. It's weird. No. People say, what do you do? And I'm like, I work with people that want to get their shit together. So you're a life coach. I'm like, not really. Yeah. I suppose I am.
Yeah.
Because I can help.
But there is a weirdness about the label though.
There is a weirdness about the label. And I think it's because if you look at it, let's just say you generalize life coaching and you, what's it called, man? When you stereotype. You look at a stereotypical life coach. They live, laugh, love. Yeah. They manifest. Their shit doesn't stink.
Yeah. They're perfect.
They're perfect. And they're giving advice on shit they have no first-hand experience of.
Which is the complete polar opposite.
And that's why I'm not in. Yeah. That's why I don't consider myself that. I don't think many other people do, really. Yeah. To be fair. Yeah. They're like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I don't really know. Yeah. Especially now I've got stand-up on me fucking CV.
Yeah. Now you've really fucked it.
And I talk about, I don't really talk about what I do. I talk about who I work with. Yeah. I work mainly with married businessmen who want to get their shit together and love their life again. They want to love their life again. That's what I do. How I do that is fucking irrelevant. I do it through coaching. Yeah. Which is just asking people great questions. Coaching's not giving advice. That's consulting. I consult with them. I give advice on things I haven't first-hand experience of. I do that through Zooms. I do it through books. I do it through audiobooks. I do it through podcasts. I'm doing it through stand-up comedy now, which is fucking wild if you think about it. Do you know what I mean? It's wild.
Tony Robbins meets Russell Kane. Here he is. Whoever saw that coming.
But that's what I do. So life coaching, I think, can be life-changing. Yeah. But not with a shit life coach. Not with a shit coach. Right. It's very easy to get into the game. There are courses that last that are 50 quid. Yeah. I have one that's 2 days long, but it's intense as fuck. And there's 100 hours of learning before you even come. And you have to get assessed. And it's called the Paul Mort Coaching Academy, which means I fail people all of the time. Yeah. Because you cannot go out there using my tools if you're fucking shit.
Yeah, it's your name.
Because my name's on it. Yeah. People are like, why have you called it that then? I'm like, because my profile
comes back to what you were saying there about fear of judgment.
And I could change the name. I will change the name probably. Yeah. Because it's too reliant on me. But when I started, I wanted people in. Yeah. And people want to do what I'm doing. Yeah. So eventually, if I want to sell it, I'll probably call it the Unstoppable Coaching Academy or something. But right now, my name works for it. Do you know what I mean?
And it keeps you accountable.
It does keep me accountable. So, and the standard's high. In fact, here's the truth. My assessors have higher standards than me. They're like, Paul, I failed him. I'm like, why? They're like, I did this. I was like, fucking hell. I wouldn't have failed him for that.
So that's good. Yeah.
They only know, so they basically do 3 live sessions. And I'm like, they're like, Paul, you passed him. Like, I did. Like, well, I would have failed him for that. I'm like, shit. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
I'm mindful of the time, and I've just got a few, like...
Yeah, let's go.
General,
you got the quick fires.
General kind of quick fire-ish that I ask all the guests. All right, so these are like the life questions.
Amazing.
So first one is, what's some of the best advice you've received and why?
I'll change me. If you ask me this tomorrow, I'll give you a different question. Don't believe everything you think. That's it. Stop picking a fight with reality. But don't believe everything you think. They're just thoughts. There's no fucking demons.
Yeah.
There's not even bad thoughts or good thoughts. There's just thoughts and what you attach to them. That's it. The other one will be become a master of meaning. If I can master meaning, what things mean, I'll master my life. I'll master money. I'll master time. I'll master my mood. I'll master my life. I'm mastering meaning. That's it.
Yeah, because what you're saying is it's not what happens, it's the perception.
Yeah.
It's what meaning you
Yeah,
give
what
it.
I focus on grows.
Got
I
it.
focus on, I get more of. I feel what I'm focused on.
All right, great. Flip
That's
side.
not one answer, but it's all of those.
Yeah, no, I love
After
it.
you get them all, I'll give you 10 more.
Totally, yeah.
It's like the best things we had. It's like the best for right now is those things.
Yeah, great. Next one is some of the worst advice that you hear or see or have
Cut
had.
out all the negative people from your life.
Yeah.
And I think there is value, huge amounts of value in changing your peer group, right?
Get around people that lift you up.
To be in line with your goals.
Yeah,
If your peer group is in opposition to your goals, you're only left with willpower because that's part of your environment. So cut out all the negative people, in my opinion, is fucking terrible advice.
What's the biggest failure and what did you learn?
That's a good question. I don't think I have a biggest failure. I have a slight regret that I didn't start things sooner. So when you have it would probably be that. The biggest lesson that
Just
I've learned
go.
is start now.
Go.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't put it off.
Yeah.
Don't wait until tomorrow. And it's really weird that start now, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you fail.
And then you've learned.
That's not even what people are scared of.
Yeah.
They're scared of looking like a failure and
Right.
feeling like a failure. So start now. When I think about regrets and mistakes, the only thing I think about is fucking hell, I wish I'd started the business sooner. I wish I'd started meditating sooner. I wish I'd started jiu-jitsu is usually the one. Wish I'd started comedy sooner. Do you know what I mean? It might have been me me mate Chris was on the wheel last night. Do you know the wheel with Chris was on the recording the wheel yesterday. That might have been me.
Yeah.
Mad fact for you, I was the first person to pay Chris Ramsey for comedy. Pay him. First person. 2011, when my son was born, about a week before my son was born, Chris came and did a comedy act for me boot camp clients at the time. That and it. Yeah. I didn't know that until he came on my podcast. He doesn't go on other podcasts. Buzzing. But yeah, it's just that thing of wishing I started sooner on almost everything. But the reality is I started when I started. And that's the perfect time. There's no other way around it. So that's the only little regret that I have. And I wouldn't say failure-wise I've had a lot, but I couldn't, that's how much I don't get caught up in it, that I couldn't think of them.
All right, next one.
Not leaving me job sooner.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All of that stuff.
Yeah. All right, next one. What's something you still struggle with right now?
Oh, nutrition. Eating.
Fucking hard, isn't it?
Eating, really hard.
Yeah.
It seems to have got harder since I gave up boozing.
Okay.
Because now I'm like, I love great food. I love eating out. I'm a fucking snob when it comes to food. Like I've eaten I think it's the third best restaurant in the world in a couple of weeks ago, The Alchemist in Copenhagen. Sensei, I love great food. I love barbecue. Fucking hell, mate. That's the thing I struggle with the most. Yeah.
And I think there's that thing, isn't there, about when you break a habit, you also need to replace it, right? So,
and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I've realised that I'm not willing to do the work it takes to get shredded. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want to be fat. I'm 44, so I can't even burn it off anymore because my body can't. Do you know what I mean? The reality is you can't out-train a bad diet. You can. Yeah. Because all you have to do is be in a deficit. Yeah. And I'm like, now I can't create the deficit without cutting the food down. That's the thing. And sleep. I really struggle with sleep. I'm too excited, too wired. Sleep is a struggle for me.
Okay.
Yeah, real bad. Yeah.
Paul, this has been so good.
Oh, thank you so much.
So good. Just final
mate,
couple
you
of
made
things.
it good, by the way.
Yeah, did I do all right?
Yeah, you played your part because I got asked the same questions all the time.
Yeah.
And this was a conversation, not an interview.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, mate.
Just if anyone doesn't already know about you, what's the score in terms of how they follow you and get your
Here's how
content?
you follow me. This is a shameless plug. Go on Audible and download whatever audiobook's on there right now. There'll be one on there as we're recording, but hopefully later down the line, there's going to be a second one on. Just go. I actually don't know what the second book's called, but search my name on Audible and you'll find it. Great.
Final question that I ask all my guests: what is your personal definition of success?
I've got two. Can I give you two? First one is doing what I want when I want to do it with who I want to do it with, even if I want to do it at all. Right? Yeah. And the second one is living a life that demonstrates my highest values. That's it.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.